Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 66 of the All Dolphins podcast. Omar, this one you like because it's in honor of an offensive lineman, Hall of Famer, no less, Larry Little. That one was too obvious. Everybody guessed it in the comments. And since you like offensive line play, you should note that if you're talking about the greatest pulling guards in the history of the NFL, you start with Larry Little or you include him very early in the conversation. Another fun fact, and this is how appropriate is it that we get to 66 this week, because the Dolphins acquired Larry Little, who was from Miami, in a trade, in one of the greatest trades in Dolphin history, from the San Diego Chargers, which brings me to the gentleman who you see with us on the screen. And you're probably wondering, who the hell is that guy? That guy is my good friend, Fernando Ramirez, who covers the Chargers for the Sporting Tribune in Southern California, and also has a podcast called Compass on the Beat. Fernando, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Alain, Omar, thank you guys for having me on.
Okay, we're going to keep it like we always do. I'm sorry, Omar, didn't mean to cut you off. See, that's what we do here. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I'm wondering where we begin this whole journey. This is the first time you're actually the first guest we've ever had on this podcast.
No pressure, because if you don't do it, we'll never have another guest. So no,
I feel honored.
We're trying things out. We're experimenting, and this is our Behind Enemy Lines episode of the podcast, just to give our viewers sort of a snapshot of the Chargers. I always want to call them the San Diego Chargers. I miss San Diego so badly. That was my favorite NFL city. It reminded me so much of South Florida. If you have never been to San Diego, I highly recommend you go.
I actually still live in San Diego.
Yeah. I meant for our listeners.
No, my bad. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, San Diego is.
Yeah.
You should go there too, Fernando. It's a great place.
I actually want to begin the podcast by getting something addressed that this is so inside baseball, but this is how my mind works. The exit of Ronaldo Hill, who was the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, and then all of a sudden, comes to Miami. And I've actually talked to Ronaldo, and this was a family choice, family decision, something the family advocated, and from what he's saying, the organization, the Chargers, were behind it. And considering I've made decisions for my family, I completely understand. But how did how did the Chargers take it?
Well, I mean, obviously Ronaldo Hill's a great guy. When we spoke to him every Thursday, great guy to listen to, because he had a lot of insight. I mean, when you're a former player turned coach, I feel like sometimes you kind of give a little bit more insight than you kind of want to, but that's just because of your knowledge of the game and everything. So, like, we would talk to Ronaldo about Derwin James, and Ronaldo would get a smile on his face and be like, look, he does this, he does that for us, and he really would go in depth on it. So Ronaldo's a good defensive mind, and he knows a lot of what's going on. I know I mean, obviously, they didn't want to lose him, but decisions were made, obviously, and now Derek Ansley's the defensive coordinator, and he was the secondaries coach. So he's kind of these secondary players have kind of grown up with him, so he knows what to expect from the secondary and all these guys. But Ronaldo was a guy that was loved by the players, loved by the coaches, and just a good all around guy. So the Dolphins got a good, and he used to play for the Dolphins. So I mean, it's him going back, quote unquote, home, and he's with Vic Fangio and everything. So that's a plus for him. But yeah, no, he's missed, and guys, obviously not now, but at the beginning when he left, players would speak about him. But obviously now everybody's kind of turned the page and focused on the game. But a great NFL mind, to be honest. I think he's very underrated when it comes to his mind.
Allow me to jump in. Here's my question here, though. For example, the Dolphins have an offensive coordinator, Frank Smith, but it's Mike McDaniel who runs the offense. Now, Brandon Staley is a guy who made his name as a defensive coach. How much of the defense was actually Brandon Staley, including, and particularly as it relates to this game, the game plan they came up with last December, and how much of it was Ronaldo Hill?
Well, the thing is, Brandon Staley is the one that calls the defense. So, I mean, Ronaldo Hill was the guy that was up top. He would see things. He would tell Brandon, "Hey, I see this, I see that," and Brandon would obviously he would obviously take whatever Ronaldo was telling him and flip it to try and use it in the game and stuff. But yeah, it's defensive coordinator, but Brandon Staley's the one calling the plays, calling the defense. So that's basically what it has been, and that's basically what it is still now with Derek Ansley. I mean, Brandon let Derek Ansley call the game for the preseason game against the 49ers. But during the season it will be Brandon Staley. And I've asked him before, have you thought about giving up play calling duties and just focusing on being a head coach? Because I feel like, to be completely honest, I feel like sometimes that's what happens with these young coaches. They want to do what they want to be the head coach, but they also want to do what they're good at. And it's kind of like, dude, I think you're at a buffet already, and you're already putting on so much. You're piling so much on your plate. Why do you want to pile even more? But yeah, I don't think Brandon likes the when I ask him those questions. But or because I asked him during the season last year at one point. Then they went on that hot streak, and then I obviously asked him when Ronaldo left, because I thought, hey, why don't you go get Vic Fangio, who's your mentor, chill back, be a coach for the and he's good about being in the offensive meetings and everything. He's good at doing all that stuff. But I just meant take a little bit less off your plate and somebody that you trust, somebody that you know, in Vic Fangio, bring him in and have him be your DC. But obviously Vic went with the Miami Dolphins and everything. But I just thought it would help
They
Brandon
can't
a little bit
afford
more.
Vic Fangio.
No,
No,
They can't afford Vic
the Spanos
Fangio.
family, which is not exactly,
yeah, no, Vic
throwing money all
Fangio
over the
commands.
place.
Yeah, he's probably. I mean, I think he's the highest paid assistant, and he has to be the highest paid coordinator in the
Defensive
whole
coordinator.
NFL. Yeah, no, and he's a brilliant mind. I mean, just the way he schemes defenses, it's just it's a lot. I mean, and I'm just saying this as an outsider because I was never there with the Broncos or anything. But what you would see, you just see stuff that he would take guys away, and he's a brilliant. I would love the opportunity to sit down with him for 20, 30 minutes and just pick his brain, because Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive minds we have.
Good luck trying to set that up.
Yeah, you get nothing but what I love about Vic Fangio is he's a straight shooter. Yeah. So you're getting nothing but fastball, chin music. But yeah, I will acknowledge that this has been a challenge for me to learn, because this is the first zone-based scheme that I've ever covered. So the concepts, the rules, the principles. If you do this with this player, what is the domino effect of it? Man, this is such a learning experience, and I'm excited really to see it unleashed.
Yeah, and with Brandon Staley, that was another thing. When J.C. Jackson got signed, it was like, hey, like J.C. Jackson's more man, not zone. Like with the Patriots, it was just get up, man up, and you're gonna do this and do that. And I think it was a learning curve for him last year as well. And then he missed some part of training camp. So, and I even asked him in June, I'm like, JC, are you understanding this a little bit more? He's like, yeah, I feel better about it. And I feel like I'm adapting a little bit more to what Brandon, because I think Brandon now has to do kind of a hybrid in a sense, because JC, like I said, is more man. So I think they're going to do a little bit different than the typical defense that they've done. But yeah, no, Vic Fangio is definitely an interesting defensive mind. But the fact that you guys said it'd be hard to set that up, I'm like, oh wow, okay, so he must be a unique cat to be on. Yeah, that must be the most unique coaching. Mike McDaniel, him, yes. Like it must be the most unique coaching staff in the NFL.
They come off like the odd couple.
Yeah.
I love it. Really. I love it.
Hey, Fernando, I wanted to ask you this. In doing my research, I come across this nugget where it was suggested that Fangio always gave the Chargers offense hell whenever they faced him.
Yeah, so
true, false, somewhere in between.
No, I think he's 3-3 against the Chargers as the head coach of the Broncos. I think he was 3-3. If I'm not mistaken, but yes, it was always a hard time, especially in Denver. He gave them a very hard time. I remember the freshman year I watched too much college football over the weekend. Justin Herbert's rookie year, the Chargers were up like 31. No, they were up 24-0 or 24-3 or something like that at halftime. and they came back and they beat the Chargers. And it was like in the second half, Vic Fangio's defense just clamped down and they were able to give him a hard time. And 2 years ago in Denver, same thing. Justin threw a couple of picks. I think one was returned for a pick six, and it was a hard time. And then Phillip Rivers had a hard time against Vic Fangio's defense as well. So yeah, he's always given them a hard time in Denver. But when they come back to LA, for some reason, it was always the Chargers getting the victory there. So, but yeah, Vic always gives them a hard time. He knows how to shut down a receiver. The one that does well against him is Mike Williams. Mike Williams always done well against the Broncos and against Vic Fangio's system. So this is going to be interesting to see what kind of twists and turns they pull out. The one thing I'm disappointed in is that Jalen Ramsey's not going to play, because I would have loved to have seen Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. The only thing is, I think Jalen would have played many different roles, kind of like Derwin does for Vic Fangio's system. I don't think he would have been a straight up cornerback. I think they would have moved him around kind of like the Rams did last year, which is, I think, brilliant, because I think longevity is the name of the game. And I think that helps aging defensive players' body kind of do a little bit more and not have to depend on just, hey, let me take this guy straight up and let me go with him the whole game. I think it's doing little different things that can help his career in the long term.
I think I heard that somewhere, Omar. Didn't I hear that somewhere?
Yeah, just somewhere. Let me ask you this question about Justin Herbert. His connection with Tua will probably go down just like Marino Kelly. I'm not going to say that they're Hall of Fame players, but they will always be connected to each other because of where they were selected, 5th and 6th. I supported the Dolphins' decision to draft Tua over Herbert, which, was kind of controversial around here. But when I met Herbert, he just didn't seem to have that leadership that intangible, that moxie, that Pied Piper effect that I look for in quarterbacks. Have you seen him be more commanding of the team? Obviously, it's easy to be named captain when you're the quarterback, but is he viewed as a leader of that team?
No, he really is. And the thing is that I don't know if I'm allowed to say this like on here, but
You're allowed to say anywhere,
okay,
anything, anywhere.
You can't bullshit these players. Like, players can smell a phony a mile away, and if you're phony, they're gonna, like a Keenan Allen, Corey Linsley, who's been with Aaron Rodgers before. They can smell phonies a mile away, and Corey Linsley says, Justin is a leader. He's very vocal in the huddle. And I think what players expect, I mean, the outside world, I think what they expect is, like, when you see old videos of Peyton and Tom Brady, where they get a play in and they're like, screw that, we're going to go and we're going to run this. Like, yes. Justin's just not at that level yet. And I don't even think Joe Burrow, I don't even think Tua, I feel like the reason why they're not there yet is because you want to have long-term success in the sense of, what have you really done yet in the league? You're only in the league for 4 years. You can't listen to a coach and be like, oh yeah, right, I'm not going to listen to you. Even Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, it took them a while to kind of get to that level. And I feel like that's why, because Keenan was on Bussin' with the Boys, and they asked him, like, hey, what was Phillip like? He's like, dude, Phillip, my second or third year, he's like, I think Mike McCoy sent in a play. He looks over and he goes, yeah, right. He's like, we're going to run this. And he's like, and we score a touchdown. And Mike's like, I told you what to call. He's like, hey, we just scored. What does it matter what you called? And so obviously he's not going to be that kind of leader yet, but he is very vocal. The players really love him. You asked Derwin, the Bussin' with the Boys asked Derwin, who would you rather have, Patrick Mahomes or Herbert? He's like, I'm going to go Jay Herb all day. He's like, that's my quarterback. That's my guy. Like, and they asked him, hey, what did you think about the dude from Fox Sports last year that was kind of dissing him? Can't remember his Acho or something. Yeah. A lot of the players did not like it. Justin Herbert didn't know what the hell anybody was talking about, but the players were angry about that stuff because they're like, don't talk about our quarterback. That's our guy. We know what he can do. We know what he brings to the table. So the players love him. Joey Bosa is a guy who it's going to be hard for him to love somebody, and he adores Justin Herbert. He talks about it all the time. He's like, sometimes I'm just standing there and I watch him and I'm like, oh my God, we're so lucky to have him as our quarterback. And you just get a kick out of it. Cause I mean, it is true. Like, the Chargers went from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers to one game of Tyrod Taylor to now Justin Herbert, and it's like, wow, like it's kind of like the Packers. They've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, but obviously those guys won rings. It's these guys are. I mean, Justin Herbert's gonna need to win one to be in the same conversation, I think, with Mahomes, because the talent's there. But now, can you ascend and can you do that next thing? But as far as your question, yes, the players view him as a leader. They love him. They say that he's very vocal, that he's growing more and more as time goes on, which is obviously a positive for him, and obviously that's why they gave him the big contract.
See, we don't have this issue here of the national media criticizing the local quarterback. That doesn't happen at all. Yeah, if you think Justin Herbert is polarizing, he's got nothing on the guy down here.
No, and I feel like both quarterbacks are under a microscope. One, because of where they were selected, but also like Joe Burrow's over here and Jalen Hurts. Both of them have already made it to a Super Bowl. They lost, both of them lost, which is good for Tua and Herbert in a sense. But obviously everybody else now Jordan Love has success too, and he makes it to an NFC championship or something. Then everybody's really going to have Tua and Herbert under a microscope even more. But winning cures everything. I mean, if they can keep on winning and have success, I really think that all those narratives go away. But that's the hardest part. Having success in the NFL is tough. I mean, I know the Chiefs make it look easy, but having that is just, it's very tough.
Yeah, so I'm not totally on the Hurts bandwagon. If I'm going to be very honest with you, I think
that's, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, that situation in Philly, I mean, it's like, could not be more.
I mean, he had a great Super Bowl last year, but now they lost their coordinators, and what's that team gonna look like? And I don't know if you guys saw Jonathan Gannon's hype up speech the other day.
Oh Jesus, hype's a very strong word. I mean, more like the
Saleh is also
like a bedtime. It's a bedtime story. That is what.
What did Robert Saleh say? Birds and bees, or the snakes and the birds, or he had one on Hard Knocks that I'm like, dude, what are these motivation? Like, if this is gonna motivate me to go to the bathroom and throw up, like, it's not gonna make me want to go out there and give my life up for you, coach.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, I'm talking to the fans right now. Check out the clip, Jonathan Gannon speech. I mean, it's like, wow. Just wow. Question with the Chargers offense is how much of a difference, because we talk about in Miami here, Vic Fangio is expected to make a huge difference for the defense. What kind of a defense and how will it manifest itself? Can Kellen Moore make as the new OC?
Well, I mean, and I'm not trying to take shots or anything, but it has to look a lot better than it did last year. I mean, you couldn't score in the third and fourth quarter. When you come out in the second half, it seemed like the opposing team made adjustments, and the Chargers just didn't. Or they made the wrong adjustments. It just looked bad. It looked really like Joe Lombardi was coaching Drew Brees still, and it's like, dude, this kid has a gun for a howitzer for a right arm. Like, why are you like kind of holding it back? But also, it was the injury of Jalen Guyton, the injury to Keenan Allen, the injuries to Mike Williams. Like, that really hurt these guys. I mean, they went into the game against the 49ers with Michael Bandy, DeAndre Carter, and Joshua Palmer as their receivers, and they took it to the 49ers. I mean, I think they lost by a touchdown. And then against the Chiefs, that Sunday night game a week later, I think Mike Williams got hurt in the first quarter, and they took it to the Chiefs. They were leading the Chiefs with a minute left in the game. So, I mean, the talent is there. It's just, can you stop these injuries from happening? And right now, and I'm doing this for Charger fans, I'm knocking on wood, but right now they look healthy going into the season. They have the Brandon Staley, and that's the thing that the players really like about him, is that training camp is going to be tough, but at the same time, he's going to make sure that these guys take care of their bodies, that they don't get those injuries. I mean, they're literally coming out of camp without having a significant injury. By this time right now, half of the team is laid up, and like in Space Jam, when they're going up against the Monstars, they have their legs just up, and other guys are like that. So, but these guys are healthy going in, but Kellen Moore, when it comes to the offense, they're painting it as it's going to be explosive, more down the field, try and stretch the field. That's why they drafted Quentin Johnston with their first pick in the draft. They wanted speed, and Quentin Johnston, he did it a couple of times where he does kind of like a drag route, and Herbert would get it to him, and he'd turn upfield, and nobody could keep up with him. He was just that fast, and they expect Joshua Palmer to do well. A guy I really see, he's 31, but you'd hardly notice it when he's on the field. Keenan Allen had a huge camp for these guys. I mean, and I know it's expected of him, but you could tell he has a chip on his shoulder because of the injuries and the Madden rating, and then all these lists where he's not on the top receivers list. He's angry about all that stuff. And honestly, Joey Bosa, I think, said it best, and I know that's a defensive player, but he's like, when you get up to this part where I'm going into my 8th season, you look and you're like, crap, my career is starting to dwindle down a little bit. Like we need to win now. And I feel like Keenan Allen's thinking of that too. Cause I remember, and I've been around this team since 13. Keenan at one point told me in 14 or 15, we need to win for Phillip Rivers. Well, now it's like, can these players rally around and win for Keenan Allen, for Joey Bosa, for these older guys, Eric Kendricks, Khalil Mack? Can they win for those guys? And that's going to be interesting to see. But this offense is supposed to be a game changer. It's going to be different, more down the field to what Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer, and Quentin Johnson do. So it's going to be.
Here's my thing, Francisco, with this offense.
Fernando.
For Fernando,
yeah.
With this offense, when you're installing a new offense and new terminology, where do you expect the growing pains?
To be honest, I think the growing pains are going to be, I mean, I guess it's who's really going to come out and, like, can everybody establish themselves? Because it sounds like they're saying it's the same terminology. Everything's going to be basically the same in the sense of wording and everything, but what's going to change is the way they adapt to it. But how quickly can they adapt? Can they already adapt to this offense? They didn't play any preseason games. They had the two scrimmages against the Saints, but can they right off the bat, without preseason games, without anything like that, can they come out against the
Dolphins?
The Dolphins, yeah, sorry, against the Dolphins.
You're on the All Dolphins podcast. You got to remember Dolphins.
I know. I'm sorry.
Rule.
I know. My mind thinks faster than my mouth moves. So, but can you come out against the Dolphins and already, like, that offense be perfect? No. How long is it going to take for that offense to be able to click? How is the relationship going to be between Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore? How are they going to adapt to everything? Can you run the football? And that's been the problem for the Chargers for years. I mean, yeah, last year Austin Eckler had 980 yards rushing, but he gained two of those games. He had over, I think, a combined 300 yards rushing. So basically, he had 600 yards in like 15 games. So what are Joshua Kelly? What is Isaiah Spiller going to bring to the run game? Can you efficiently run the football? And I feel like that's going to be the growing pain for them. They're going to need to run the football. Last year, they tried against Jacksonville at the end of that game. They tried to run the clock out, but Austin Eckler couldn't even gain a yard. So, and because I thought he was gassed by that point. And can you limit Austin Eckler to only about 20 to 25 touches and other guys pick up the slack? Or is it going to be the same thing where Austin touches the ball 25, 30 times? And by the end of the year, he's kind of gassed in a sense. Well, that's going to be the big question. But there's a lot of question marks. I mean, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like, you see you know that, are they going to be able to start off fast? Is it going to be slow? The running game, and then the offensive line, can they gel the way that they're supposed to gel? A lot of people are saying, oh, this is a top 10 offensive line. I'd wait a little bit, wait to see what this team's going to be, because Rashawn Slater's back. Jamari Sawyer goes from left tackle to right guard. Zion Johnson goes back to left guard. Trey Pipkins was banged up all year last year. Is he going to be healthy? So there is a lot of question marks. I mean, I know obviously everybody makes it seem like, oh yeah, no, this offense is going to gel right away. I have my suspicions on that. You have to wait and see what this offense is going to look like. But yeah, there are going to be some growing pains. I totally expect that, especially week 1 against Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the defense.
Hold on. Let me jump in. The point, very important point, needs to be made. If we look back at last year's game, the Chargers in that game couldn't run the ball in the least whatsoever. But the Chargers did not have either of their starting tackles. Pipkins was out that game, and Slater was out for the year. So that's something we have to consider. I certainly wouldn't expect the Chargers to run against the Dolphins this year anyway. But
Rashawn Slater kind of changes light. Like, his rookie year, they would run right behind him. That's where they'd find the most success, running behind him. But I agree with you. I feel like this is going to be this could be a coming out party. Like, hey, let's show what we got, and they might go more to the pass. But I truly think that they need to establish the run, because if not, like I think Austin's a great back and everything, but I feel like you're missing that Melvin Gordon, like a big back that can gas the defense, and then obviously use Austin to gash them and stuff. So I feel like they're kind of missing that in a sense, but we'll see if Isaiah Spiller, because Joshua Kelly's a guy that kind of gets started the first 3 or 4 games, and then an injury happens, and then he's just not the same the rest of the year. So they need continuity when it comes to running the football. If not, that's going to be a huge problem, because you can't just let Justin go back there and throw every game 50 times. If not, it's going to be a recipe for disaster, to be honest.
From what I've read, your run defense was an issue last year from a defensive standpoint.
They've been terrible the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Even going back to Anthony Lynn's last season, they could not stop the run if their life depended on it.
So what were the adjustments or changes? What makes you confident that issue is in their past, or is it not?
I'm not confident. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like these last 2 years have just been brutal. Like they get gashed left and right. Last year against the Jaguars in the first game that they played at SoFi, they had a 4th and 2, and they just ran it up the middle with James Robinson, and he went 50 yards and scored the touchdown. You're like, dude, what is going on? So they've gotten gashed by a lot of guys. The one thing that they keep on telling us is having Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack is going to help them with the outside, establishing the edges, which are like, okay, but what about inside? They're confident that Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson just returned for them. They're confident in him. They're confident that their backups, who are Nick Williams, Morgan Fox, those guys, that they're all going to help seal that up. And then obviously Eric Kendricks. The addition of Eric Kendricks, they're really counting on Eric Kendricks to be this 125 tackles, tackles for losses, and everything, which he has shown in camp that he can do. But you're going to need to consistently be able to stop the run. It's going to really rely also on Kenneth Murray. He's a linebacker that they chose in the first round in 2020, and he's had okay seasons, but it's been a roller coaster ride with him. Now, can he establish himself and be a true linebacker that's going to help against the run? That's but yeah, confidence level. They speak really nice and they tell you pretty things, but are you ready to date them? No, you are not. You're not ready to date this run defense. You're still in the let's see stages with this defense, or with this defense when it comes to stopping the run.
You're hooking up with them. You're not dating. You're not dating
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're hooking up with them, but you don't know if they're girlfriend material yet. You're speaking my language.
Yeah, Omar loves those analogies. Do you think, like, the big story of the game last year was how the Chargers completely neutralized the passing game? I mean, Tua was 10 for 28. With Derwin James not in the lineup, and they completely jammed wide receivers. Who? And
Bosa. Joey Bosa, yeah.
They jammed the wide receivers at line of scrimmage. They took away the middle. What's the level of confidence out in your neck of the woods that the Chargers can do that again?
I mean, obviously, I feel like you kind of got to take that game with a grain of salt, just because I'm sure Mike McDaniel, Vic Fangio, I know Vic Fangio's on defense, but I'm sure they have input sometimes because that scheme is so similar to his, that he's going to try and help the offense.
Ronaldo Hill was on that defensive staff that called that game.
Yeah. Yep. So Ronaldo, Vic Fangio, all those guys are going to help. They're going to help those guys out and help with all that. But I think the Chargers need to be careful because with what they could bring out, because obviously you don't know what the offensive line is going to look like for the Dolphins yet. But at the same time, and this is just my opinion, you guys are obviously there, but if like Teron Armstead doesn't play and their offensive line is hurting, there's going to be a lot of scream. They're not going to try and have Tua hold the football a lot. So I think it's going to be a lot of screens, a lot of different things, run the football, try and just be like, hey, yeah, exactly. Try and be quick with it, try and get it out, and try and do as much as you can. Let's see if they can stop you this second time. But the thing is, we don't know what J.C. Jackson is, and I think that's really where I think the Chargers still have their questions about, like, what is J.C. Jackson going to look like? And I feel like that's kind of the thing. If J.C. Jackson can go back to being, quote unquote, Mr. INT, like he's told us, then I think the Chargers are confident in their pass defense. But without knowing what J.C. Jackson looks like, I can't specifically say if they're confident or not. But I think they're confident in themselves. Because, like I said, if J.C. Jackson plays, then that means Michael Davis is your other corner, who's in the past dealt with Tyreek Hill a lot, and then Asante Samuel's your slot, so you're looking pretty there. But if J.C. Jackson it isn't working, then you're kind of thin at the cornerback position. But confidence level, I don't know what they would say, because Tyreek Hill's a dangerous weapon, Jalen is too, and all that. So I don't know about confidence level, but I know that they know that those two guys are very dangerous and they can take the top off out of any defense if they're not careful.
Just like that. Am I right, Omar?
Yeah, no, it's you mentioned something that I really thought about, because a lot of people that I know and respect, cornerbacks who played in the league, they think Asante Samuel Jr. is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL from a technique standpoint. And I'm thinking to myself, if I might, because Tyreek plays a lot from the
plays
slot.
Like his dad so much, man. Like,
looks
exactly like his dad.
They don't have a great relationship.
No, they don't. But they just play so similar. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You can't watch something for all those years and then not have it go into your body like osmosis. But I'm thinking,
it's the genes too. Like those genes are going through your veins. So
I'm a big Asante fan. I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he is a guy who's worthy of Hall of Fame consideration. You can't have that many interceptions in the league, and people think it's a fluke.
And win those Super Bowls.
Yeah. My question is, how do you utilize Tyreek, considering, you move him all around? A lot of times you put him on the slot, but one thing that this coaching staff has always said is we're going to attack a team's weaknesses. So you put Tyreek on that weak link, and I'm trying to wonder if it's Michael Davis or if it's J.C. Jackson that's the weak link.
Gotta be J.C. Jackson.
I think as of right now, it is J.C. I think J.C. Jackson, though, when it comes to jamming, I think he's very good at jamming, and that's but I mean, Tyreek Hill's different than Chris Olave. When we saw him against Chris Olave, he was doing a lot of jamming, but it has to be J.C. Jackson because there's so much unknown. With Michael Davis, he can keep up with Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying stride for stride, but he's right there kind of with him in a sense. But like last year, he gave up that big touchdown to Tyreek where he went down the sideline. So there's the worry there. But I mean, if you're going to use Tyreek to kind of go at these guys, it would have to be J.C. Jackson, just because the unknown of what he's going to be he's told us my confidence level has to be at a good pace for me to play and me to be ready to go and me not think about my injury. So I think it would be J.C. Jackson that they'd attack. Asante's really good, like his dad was, at jamming guys on the line, and he's very aggressive. He's feisty, so I don't think you want to get in something like that with him. So I think J.C. Jackson would be the guy that they would target more than Michael Davis and more than Asante, just because of the unknown with J.C. Jackson. I don't even think they have that much film on J.C. because like I said, last year, which just wasn't pretty. And obviously the New England days, he was making plays left and right. So which J.C. Jackson are the Chargers going to get? So that's a huge unknown. So I expect him to go at Tyreek, or I expect them to try and put Tyreek more on JC.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. Okay. Fernando, we're not going to put you on the spot, ask you for a prediction, unless you want to give a prediction. Omar and I think, are going to keep ours probably for the weekend, right, Omar?
I'm not even sure I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay, if you want to make one, by all means.
But yeah, make one, or tell people how to find your work.
Well, I can't make a prediction. I'm a big injury report kind of guy. So like, if I need to see see what Teron Armstead's going to be. Jalen Waddle, I guess, is also kind of on the question mark a little bit. But okay, fine. Yeah, I expected him to play. You guys can find my work at Real F Ramirez on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and Thread. I guess that's a new thing too. I think it's already died, but I mean, people tell me it's still alive.
It's dead. It has no pulse.
Yeah, no, it does not. So you guys can find me there, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a big honor to be the first guest, and I hope I did it. I I hope I did some justice.
No, you did. You did great, my friend, as I knew you would.
Appreciate it.
Omar, we got to do our regular thing. All Dolphins podcast, subscribe, share, like, tell a friend, read our stuff at alldolphins.com. Everything is free. Anything else I forget?
No, we will be back excited for week 1. Welcome to the regular season.
All righty. Thanks, everyone.